Looked at this year, a lot of people wanted to provide their presentations for free. Yeah.
All right. Okay, I see 9 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. Welcome to the March meeting of the Iowa 911 Communications Council. If we can start, this is not on. It's blinking. We good? Okay. For those that didn't hear, welcome to the Iowa 911 Communications Council for March. It's on.
Here, mine's working. Wait, is mine?
Can you hear me on this one?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Third time's a charm. Welcome to the Iowa 911 Communications Council for March. If we can start down there, introductions, and then go out into the crowd, please.
James Chambers, representing Large Telecom, CenturyLink.
Blake DeRucci, Iowa Homeland Security and Emergency Management, 911 Program Manager.
Tracy Buren, representing Iowa NENA, Polk County Emergency Management.
Lawrence Harpence, I represent Iowa Geographic Information Council.
Jeff Anderson, Iowa Emergency Management Association.
Rob Rotter, Iowa County Sheriff, representing Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association.
Mike Bryant, representing the Iowa Professional Firefighters.
Robbie Johannesson, representing DPS.
Jack D'Angelo, telephone representing small telcos.
George Griffith.
Kara Sorrells, representing Iowa APCO.
Jamie Robinson, Mahaska EMA 911.
Cheryl Eckloff, Mahaska County 911.
Brad Schatz, Jasper County Communications.
Josh Humphrey, Iowa County EMA.
Scott Rounds, Des Moines Police.
Brad Button, Des Moines Police. Cody Brink with Zetron.
Chad Roberts, DPS Cedar Rapids.
Amanda Roush, Story County 911.
Jim Lundstedt with the Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency from Homeland Security.
Steve Reams, Zetron.
Stacy Wood, Zetron.
Joel Martin, IUB.
Dan Pohl with Motorola.
Doug McCaslin, Warren County 911.
Christo McIntyre, Warren County Board of Supervisors and 911 Board.
Connie Stuffelbeam, DPS.
Chris Myers on the SWIC.
Mike Lauer, ICM.
Andy Buffington, Hancock County 911.
Brian Madewell, Westcom.
Holly Davidson, DPS.
Okay, and do we have any guests on the phone?
John Drury.
Mary D. Miller, Iowa County 911.
Stacy Gross.
Toby DeWitt with the office.
Cherise Sexy, Humboldt County.
Toby DeWitt with the Office of Congressman King.
All right, good morning and welcome. Before I ask for an approval agenda, we do have an addition to the agenda that we need to make. We do have a training fund request for the APCO NENA conference. So if we can just add that along with the travel requests. Blake, you said that someone was going to be calling about that?
One for APCO on the phone, and then
Tracy for NENA here.
Okay, So is that okay just to leave it there and with travel? And okay, very good. Yes.
I spoke with Blake too about the upcoming APCO and NETA conference, and that probably needs to go under for us to want to attend for approval for that under travel request when we get to that.
Very good. Okay. So with the addition of the training fund request as well, we will deal with the travel request as well. With that addition, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Okay, and then likewise for the February 14th minutes.
Approve. Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Against? Motion carries. Okay. Blake?
All right, I apologize. I don't have slides for you today, so you're going to have to listen, and I'll care if you need any help with the minutes. I'll get them to you afterwards. I briefed a number of months ago that we were looking at doing a 911 peer assessment, and that's through the National 911 Office. We've proceeded with that. We have the funding to do that out of our administrative part of the budget, and it's really just to cover the cost of my peers to come here and actually grade the 911 program against about 87 measurables. I was going to have a nice slide for you with all of those measurables. Some of them are very much in my wheelhouse. Some of them are not. Some of them touch EMS and other types of protocols as it relates to 911. So most of the work, the pre-work, I can do myself. But as kind of the subject matter experts in various organizations and organizations that do kind of touch or revolve around 911, I might be reaching out to some of the council members to help with pulling code, pulling policy, pulling admin rules, stuff that I don't work with on a day-to-day basis. So they're scheduled, and we're tentatively planning for them to be on site here in September, which means I need to get the information to them by July. So it's just kind of, if you're familiar, at least Jeff, maybe with the EMAP process, it's very similar to that. It's like a peer assessment, and they basically review our 911 program against kind of well-defined measurables and see how we stand up. And one thing that they said as we were going through and having the initial kickoff call is, you're not supposed to be meeting, or you're not supposed to be exceeding in all of these categories. So just to kind of set, not to get anyone's hopes up, we can always do better, and that's kind of what we're using this for, kind of like a strategic plan, and where we can improve on. So that's going to be kind of going on in the background the next couple months.
Is that an actual accreditation process?
It's not an accreditation process. The National 911 program, we'd actually be the third state to go through it. The first two are kind of pilot programs. North Carolina, and I can't remember the other state. So I think it's just a good way to see where we stand. A lot of the measurables came out of, do you remember the task force on optimum PSAP, FOPA, A, whatever the A is, task force on optimum PSAP, whatever the A is, that the FCC developed. So it's those measurables on just the all-encompassing the 911 program. So it's not, like I said, not an accreditation process, but it kind of gives us and state leadership and our office and you all just kind of a benchmark of where we're at and what we can improve on. A lot of it's governance, operations, technological type stuff as well. So 10 counties are still lacking on submitting their expenditure form for PSAP data collection. Those PSAPs are Buchanan, Chickasaw, Clinton, Ida, Marshall, Muscatine, Ringgold, Scott County, Warren, and DPS. So the deadline, the legal deadline for that is March 31st, and after that, I have to start withholding surcharge. So surcharge payments go out in April. If I don't have the forms by then, I would have to withhold 35% of the surcharge. I sent out an email the end of February, kind of an exciting announcement. As part of the shared services, we're offering an additional EMD offering. Really, the program stays the same. You have to opt into the CPE, the Zetron call handling aspect of it first. And if you do that, and you are also interested in EMD, you would have two different brands to choose from. You would have ProQA, as well as PowerPhone, which was the original offering. The pricing is the same. Later today, I'm going to send out kind of a white paper on the differences of what the two programs are and what you get for that dollar amount. So really, the entire program is the same. The cost share is the same. We pay for the install. Local jurisdiction pays for the annual cost. But it's just another choice that you have within the state. As we looked around who used what based on one of our surveys that we conducted, Priority Dispatch ProQA was much more used in the state, so we're happy to be able to offer that as well. Somebody brought up at the Eastern Iowa PSAP meeting last week, would we look at doing that for other of the shared services like CAD or logging recorder or anything like that? We haven't had those conversations yet, but I think it would be an interesting one to have. But also, just so you know, that's a lengthy process. We started going down that route to get an additional EMD offering about 9 months ago. So it takes a little bit to get that under contract. We've talked a number of months now about additional PSAP training. I've continued to work on what I've termed PSAP leadership training. It's about 60 slides and counting. Whenever I have some free time, I just keep working on that. Again, some of the feedback has been very positive as I've gone out to regional PSAP supervisor meetings. People have asked, could we tie it in with TAC training, which I think is a good idea. A couple days of PSAP leadership training, a couple days of TAC training, and you have a pretty good week of training that you've carved out. So I think that's a good thing to explore, and I'll continue to work on the slides. And when they get to kind of a state of final draft or close to final draft, I'll make sure to socialize them and get input and continue to improve those slides. In February, 38 additional counties met the GIS grant benchmarks. So just in 2 months for the second 6-month period, 64 counties have met those benchmarks. So 2/3 of the state already in 2 months. That's pretty good. Later today, we'll be talking about the training request. Just as a reminder, we do have kind of the standing approval for the APCO and NENA conferences. So NENA is eligible for $5,000 for this conference, and APCO is eligible for $4,500 for the upcoming conference. We have kind of reserved that money. If you remember the training approvals that we did, we made sure to carve out that money anticipating these requests. So that funding is there. There is about, with the travel that's come in, about $1,100 remaining for council travel. Legislatively, House File 516 is eligible for floor debate. That is the bill that would add the sheriff or the sheriff's designee as a standalone voting member on local 911 service boards. That's kind of the lone Iowa bill that's out there that really does impact 911, and it's a truly local decision, local issue with that bill. So, any questions for me? And then I have ICN and Zetron lined up to provide a presentation as well.
As you know, ICN did go out for our RFP. We did end up redoing that RFP as well, just because of lack of, I think, detail on ICN side, and then also just responses weren't what ICN expected. That second RFP was, I think, closed last week, and it was awarded. It's still, today is the final day of the appeal. Ends today at 4:30, but the awardee was given to CenturyLink based on their technical response and price and scoring and the ability to reach every NXX that was listed on the site towards that. So as right now, that's the update. going forward from there, the next plans are to go ahead and verify and work with Comtech to make sure that all the technical requirements are needed to meet and deliver calls to the 2 data centers that are throughout the state. And then other than that, it will start the process, and ICN will be reaching out to individual local telcos, PSAPs to start scheduling conversion cutover and start to work towards moving towards the solution that was given for ICN to provide about a year ago. So that's all I have for an update. Any questions? Yes, sir.
So CenturyLink was awarded the contract, is that correct?
That's correct.
So will we be still building parallel 911 trunk circuits?
That's
Will
correct.
just be migrating the existing circuits?
So those circuits will be migrated and from a technical setup standpoint, instead of them going to 9th and High, where the selective routers are at, they get moved towards the 2 data centers that Comtech controls.
So will there be any additional testing required?
There will be testing that will be required towards that, probably for the cutover, and that's more on Comtech's side towards that. ICN will take care of the kind of physical layer, layer 1, layer 2 connectivity to make sure that we have connection between our CenturyLink and ICN. And then from there, there's going to be most likely anything from what Comtech has told me, and it's still not delineated exactly what needs to happen, but there will be, audio call, there will be routing call, there will be testing, there will be a couple, I think they mentioned a few other protocols that they will test as well towards that, but that will be done on a per, that's yet to be decided, I suppose. They'll either have to do it on a per NXX or have to do it on a per regional basis, most likely.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't know if you mentioned, but what time frame are we looking at?
That is yet to be 100% provided. It's more of a Comtech answer on that. But we are still expecting to try to get this done, I believe, by summertime.
Yeah, that's the timeline I've
Yeah.
seen is
Okay.
I would say late summer if I was answering the question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Stacy Wood. I'm a project manager at Zetron. I wanted to give everyone a quick update on what's happening with the shared services program. We had initially planned to roll the program out with one host. You may be aware that the hosted solution is a 2-host solution providing redundancy, geo-redundancy for all the PSAPs across the state. And initial rollout was intended to be starting with one host and one PSAP, and then a few weeks later rolling out with the second host. Over the last couple of months, some discussions were had with our partners, and a decision was made that rather than roll out with a single host, it would be much preferred to roll out with 2 hosts at the same time. So the deployment plan for the host rollout has changed. It includes a more robust testing schedule. So now instead of just testing the one host, one PSAP design, and moving forward after that with a second host testing plan, we're revamping the testing plan to include all of that now at the same time. So the rollout will happen with both hosts fully functional, one PSAP deployed on that, both hosts at the same time, and then immediately thereafter we'd roll out with a second PSAP on both hosts. So it's changed the schedule. We're planning to roll that out by the end of April and have all the testing and the deployment complete by April 23rd is the new date that that's scheduled to be deployed. So we discussed with Blake and ICN and other business partners, and everyone's on board with the new plan and the new dates. So are there any questions about the rollout plan or the deployment of the hosts or PSAPs? No. And then I just wanted to touch briefly on the program growth. We've got 29 PSAPs that have expressed interest in the plan. We've got 9 that we have signed agreements with. And initially we had thought we would roll out with only call taking as we rolled those PSAPs out. But because of the extended time, we are going to be able to roll the PSAPs out with call taking initially, and then also if they have requested it, voice logging and the mapping services they've asked for. So that's really exciting. The mapping is a really, it's a great product and a good improvement for the PSAPs to have that out of the gate rather than having to wait to have that come later. So that's been an added benefit. And we've also got several PSAPs that are interested in the EMD program that Blake touched on. We now have 2 that we're offering, in Mahaska is one that we're starting the rollout with. And that is not waiting for the hosts to roll out. We're starting with those right away. They're not dependent on any server relationship. So we started working with Mahaska and a couple other counties to get their EMD program rolled out. And as other counties come on board with interest in that program, we can immediately start working with them to get those rolled out also for either of the vendors. So any questions about that or any of the shared services? Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. I had one, I forgot one item. I mentioned last month that we would be making application for the National 911 Grant Program. I made that application. I think we were the first state that submitted. Those applications aren't due until the beginning of April. So we hope to hear back within a couple months, not expecting any issues. And again, that's about $2.3 million with a 40% local match to do some of the shared services and network migration that we've talked about.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Do we have any technical advisories?
I have one thing today, share with the council.
Have some new legislation here that's in the works. House File 487 and Senate File 1195 in regard to tower communications in counties that have less than 15,000 population here. If it's okay, it's a short and sweet. I'll just read the explanation here. This bill relates to installations of certain wireless telecommunications infrastructure in Iowa pursuant to Code Chapter 8C. Code Chapter 8C, the Iowa Cell Sitting Act, provides uniform rules and limitations for installations of wireless telecommunications infrastructure in the state, including rules related to applications for such installations. The bill provides that an authority or governing body authorized to make decisions relative to the application shall not reject an application for the installation of a tower transmission equipment in the unincorporated area of a county with population of less than 15,000, except for on certain residential and historical property, upon written confirmation from the statewide interoperable communications system board that the tower or equipment is intended to be installed and used as part of the state plan approved under the specific federal law for deployment of the nationwide public safety broadband network or radio access network. The bill includes, by reference, definitions for nationwide public safety broadband network and radio access network. So evidently, and I don't know the specifics, but this came up in Allamakee County, I believe. So just for your information.
Okay, thank you. Any other advisories? Okay. Okay, next we'll get an update on the Iowa Interoperability Governance Board. Chris Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to the rest of the council. Got an update for you on the PSAP grant. Ordering and modifications to existing orders have basically been completed. We had to make some adjustments to accommodate a previously unknown compatibility issue, but that has been addressed and that has been solved. A lot of time has been spent on making sure that the equipment that PSAPs are getting is compatible with what's in the PSAP, and we feel like we're in a pretty good spot with that. The compatibility issue affected 2 PSAPs, so we were able to work around that and come up with a pretty good solution, I think. So those should all be on order now, if they're not already. We're still waiting for some power supplies from a couple of brands, but we do have about 37 of them that are basically ready for programming now, and that programming is getting ready to ramp up. So we'll start getting those things rolled out here soon. At the board level today, we have 2 standards that are up for approval. One is an update on our compliance process with ISIC standards. Basically what that does is it rehouses the compliance process with our governance committee. Previously that resided with technology and operations, but as standards was working through that, they realized that the only committee that sees all the standards in some way, shape, or form is governance, so that the compliance process would be better housed under that. The other one deals with system documentation. A little bit more mundane, but nonetheless, it's still good to have that type of stuff outlined. Up for approval today is Keokuk County EMA. That's level 2 access. And then we also have some discussions on interstate interoperability. We are actually looking at possibly helping facilitate a means to get neighboring states' PSAPs on the network relatively quickly as well, so that interstate communication can be facilitated in a perhaps a more efficient manner. So far, we've had meetings with Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois to help get that started. We've made excellent progress in Minnesota and Illinois. We had our first meeting with Nebraska last week. Our first one with Missouri is in 2 weeks. And then we meet with South Dakota in early April. So we're really starting to look at this as a global issue with respect to interoperability and trying to help enhance the systems we have now. We also received our grant acceptance letter from ECD earlier this week. I would like to see about discussing that PSAP webinar for cybersecurity that I'd been mentioning for the past couple of months. That got approved. So I think it would be beneficial for the board to coordinate with the council to try to make sure that we can get as many PSAPs on that webinar as possible. As far as I know, there's no virtual seat limit. So I think the more we can get on that webinar, the merrier, especially since PSAP cybersecurity is a moving target. We'll also be one of the first states to go through that TA. So we'll probably get a good look at what they're doing with that. And it'll also give us an opportunity to offer some feedback on how to make the course better. So once again, we'll be able to put the Iowa fingerprint on something nationally. So last item today, our FirstNet Broadband Subcommittee met on Tuesday of this week. We've had a lot of discussion recently about the rollout of FirstNet. We've gone over a lot of frequently asked questions, ranging from how the network is actually supposed to operate to something as mundane as if you're on 2 different networks, will data still pass between applications? And the answer there is, of course, yes. So we've had a lot of good progress made with that as well in getting good information out there. And that's the basic gist of my report today, so I'll take any questions.
This isn't a question, it's more of a statement from the DPS side that I wanted to let everybody know, as not to, I guess, or as to dispel any rumors or anything from the DPS side. We had our consoles installed at all of our dispatch centers at DPS, and there's been some talk, I guess, on the east side of Iowa that the State Patrol is live on the system. That is inaccurate. We have been doing testing from the State Patrol side and the DPS communications side, but I just wanted to let everybody know that, DPS is not live on the new system. We have the capability, but it's not signed off yet, so.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, up next, I'm going to have to read this as a title change. An update from Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Emergency Communications Division. It's still Jim Lundstedt, though.
Same old tired guy, new title. I'm just going to take you through a couple of quick slides in the course of this briefing. We are at a final draft of what's called the National Emergency Communications Plan, DHS, through CISA, formerly OEC, updates this plan every 5 years. 5 years ago, we began to incorporate elements of 911 to understand the entirety of the emergency communications and, pardon the buzzword, ecosystem, all of the players and elements. The draft plan is available for comment now through March 22nd. We've actually gotten a great deal of feedback from our SAFECOM partners, which represent public safety nationwide, but I wanted to make you aware that if you would care to read it and comment, I'll make these slides available to Blake as well if you would like to read it. It's in its entirety in draft at dhs.gov/NECP. The NECP actually drives DHS's grant programs. I wish there was more money to be driven out, but the reality is it does inform a number of other grants. And this is the ecosystem I referred to. The primary changes are the incorporation of cybersecurity elements. That's one of the biggest single changes, and the rest are there on the screen. I won't waste your time reading them, just things like changing recommendation to success indicators. How do we know we're moving in the right direction. Chris mentioned the ICTAP, the Interoperable Communications Technical Assistance Program. There on the screen are the approved TA deliveries for the state of Iowa for the federal fiscal year 18. We will actually be hosting an all hazards CommT class. Iowa's done several state-sponsored classes over the last several years, and we will also be hosting an all hazard incident tactical dispatch course again this fiscal year, coordinated with the SWIC and the STO. The communications planning and procedures is an internal housekeeping refresh for the SIGB, the ISIXB, and we will also be looking to refresh the statewide communications interoperability plan to incorporate some of the changes that have happened in the past 2 years. It's not an entire rewrite, it's just an opportunity to refresh what's in the planning document. It's a strategic plan and be sure that we're still on track. I think that's the only other thing of significant impact. Created a slide that talks about our NIFOG. I've told you about that before. This is a key piece of capability in terms of understanding frequencies and a lot of other things that relate to communications, primarily for the hands-on side of the house. But we also have the GETS and WPS dialer for our GETS program that's proven to be very successful. I won't take you through the rest of the slides in the interest of time. Any questions for me?
Jim, it said that the COML training would be deferred.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Yes, deferred means that we take a certain amount of money and fence that initially because all 56 states and territories and a few federal agencies are asking for support. We took the highest things that we could deliver with existing resources and approved all of those. We're now waiting on the other states and territories to finish their part of the requests, and then we'll either approve or schedule in 19. So, yes, sir. Anything else for me? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, up next, an update from our 34A Administrative Code Committee. Tracy.
I got all the comments back from committee members. I incorporated those. I added a few other documents that I received to supplement. I did email those out, so if you have any questions, just let me know. I would like approval to submit those publicly so I can garner more support and presence at the next committee meeting. I'm hoping to have it either late March or April at the latest May. So if you could just give me approval for that. I don't know if there's there's really no action so forth right now that you need to take. You can digest it and bring back any actionable items for the next committee meeting, just so I can get more people to attend.
Okay. Do we have such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
You have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, we've touched on some legislative issues already, but other than what we've talked about, are there any other legislative issues that we'd like to discuss? Okay. So last time we talked about the changes in the council bylaws reflecting the AG's opinion that we can conduct some business over the phone when necessary by members. And I put out a rewrite of that section 6 dealing with quorums, and I'll just go ahead and read what the changes were. And it just reads, on occasion, a member may participate telephonically or by other electronic means if the member is unable to travel to the meeting location. Members needing to participate in a meeting electronically shall notify the chair no less than 24 hours in advance of the meeting unless circumstances prevent such early notification. And then the other changes were just simply in section 7, changing the word in attending and present to those participating. So that is what I have. Is there any changes that anybody would like to see with that? Are we liking how that reads? Okay, so our bylaws currently say that we have to have this basically on the table for 30 days, so we won't take an action on it today, but unless there's any changes that anyone wants now, we will put this on the agenda for next month to be voted on. Okay? All right. That should take care of that then. All right. Also, on unfinished business, I still have an update for myself dealing with the formation of the baseline knowledge for 911 communications professionals. This was a committee that is being formed to discuss the formation of, or I'm sorry, the study of the baseline knowledge for 911 professionals. And I do have a very good chair who graciously accepted that position, Jamie Robinson from Mahaska County 911. So thank you, Jamie. Just to kind of recap what that committee was about, it was really to look into whether there are deficiencies in 911 training and knowledge, and we're talking baseline knowledge here. And if there are, what are they? And then secondly, is there a mechanism for keeping those standards reviewed from time to time? And if there is a mechanism, is it working properly? Or is it a matter of it's just not being utilized? So is the mechanism proper and utilized properly and we still have a failure? Or do we just need to utilize what's already in place? So that's something, those are the questions that the committee will be looking at. I don't know what they're going to find, but we're now at the stage where we have a chairperson, and we will need gracious volunteers to take part in that committee. So if there are people here present today that would like to take part in that committee, I'd certainly like to gather names. And then those folks, keeping in mind that anyone can be on the committee. It doesn't need to be anyone on, not necessarily council members. And if there are folks on the phone or somebody who maybe isn't with us today that would be interested, it would be nice to get this committee underway, maybe have an organizational meeting between now and our next meeting just to get our feet wet and get this thing going. So I guess at this point, are there people in the room that would be interested in serving on this committee?
I'll serve, Chair.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know everybody's name.
Brian Maywood, but it might be a different representative from West County.
Okay.
Your training QA coordinator.
And,
Jeff Roberts, DPS Communications at Cedar Rapids.
okay. And then there was somebody. Okay. What would be really nice is if, before you folks leave, if you could maybe clearly jot down your email address so I can put an email group together so we can communicate a little easier, and we'll get that going. Anybody else? Anybody on the phone?
This is Cherie Sexy. I would like to participate in that. Thank you.
Okay. Shirley, what was the last name? Charisse? I'm sorry.
Cherie?
Humboldt County? Okay.
Yes.
Do you? Okay, apparently we have your email address, so we're great there. Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you.
This is Brenda Vandervoort, Fayette County 911.
Okay, I don't know if anybody here has her email address. I think we do. Okay, so we're good there. And going one last time. Okay, thank you. That's great. Looks like we have a pretty good committee already set up, so that's awesome. Okay, moving on to other business. Does anybody have any business that I'm not aware of? Okay. So we've talked about the travel requests. I believe we have travel requests. Conference. You have everything you need for that, Blake or Mike? Here, you can.
I think I got it now. Yeah, I checked with Blake on the APCO and NINA conference coming up for the council members. I don't know if anybody else, but typically I try to go if I can, and I'm outside that, or I'm inside that 50-mile limit, so it's not a hotel, it's just the registration and the mileage. And so Blake thought we should probably have approval for the process, so it's on the record, I guess. That's my request to go.
So basically, travel and your
Registration.
fee.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other travel requests? Okay, then I would seek a motion to approve Mike's request for the mileage reimbursement as well as the registration fee for APCO NINA.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Okay, and then we also have the conference training approval for training funds.
I'm going to speak on behalf of Iowa NINA. The president, Brandon Miller Gus, was very fortunate and worked well with his skills of persuasion and got most of our speakers free. So we're just requesting $1,241.88 out of our allotted $5,000. We're going to be having dispatchers come from the Las Vegas shooting, and they're going to discuss their experiences, what they went through. So this is not professional speakers. These are real life dispatchers that dealt with these issues. So we would like to have approval for reimbursement for the funds for the conference.
Okay, and if I wrote it down right, $1,241.88, is that?
That is correct, Chair.
Okay. All right, so that was NINA. We can put these together if you like. And then there's an APCO request. Is there someone on the phone now from APCO? Okay. Okay. APCO, are you on the phone? Okay. Blake, you have the amount though, I believe?
Yeah, and it sounded like it was going to be also in that ballpark, probably even less than $1,000. And again, we had kind of earmarked 4,500. They have a standing approval. The agenda is posted online. I don't have it in front of me, but
right. Well, I think
it's for the training for the conference.
Absolutely, and this council has already really essentially approved those future payments anyway. So what I would ask for then is a motion to approve the stated amount that NINA requested at $1,241.88, and then the additional request from APCO. While that number is not exactly determined, we know the ballpark, and we are certainly within our allotted funds. So would I hear a motion to approve both of those requests?
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? And motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Any businesses from the floor? Okay. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Do we have a motion? I heard a second. I didn't hear the motion. Okay. You got that? I think Mike might have said it, and he just didn't hear it. All right, all those in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.